Introduction to Game. Inverted World. The repeated deaths and rebirth of unfamiliar villages on a large ship, strange funerals, magical spells, and mysterious small islands. The guy who doubts his gender doesn't know his origin and background, dare not entrust him with his true feelings, live cautiously, and don't know where to go. Repeated deaths. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The flickering thunder and lightning in the darkness illuminate this world, the sky is black, and the earth is a black ocean. On the vast sea surface, there was a sudden surge of strong winds, causing heavy waves and the sea to boil like boiling water. The strong wind swept slender raindrops like willow leaves, densely crashing towards the distant ship. This is a large ship with a wooden structure, and the rear half of the ship is a two-story small building. The walls and door panels of the small building are also made of wood, and the window edges are diamond-shaped, which looks like a mortise and tenon structure. In the middle of the big ship is a huge mast, and the sails sway like wings in the strong wind, as if to rise up in the wind. The whole ship is a light brown wood texture, undulating and swaying in the wind and waves. The people on the deck were all wearing shorts and short sleeves. Some were stronger, with their necklines open, revealing their hairy chests. Some people are shorter, wearing shorts like skirts and short sleeves like coats. There are also people whose clothes seem to be tailor-made for them, with everything just right, making people wonder if they have changed them themselves. Before the heavy rain hit them, these people might be watching the scenery on the deck or patrolling, but none of them had time to escape into the cabin. The mast of the large ship was broken in the wind and waves, and the crew standing on the deck were swaying and some even rolled. If it weren't for the railings on the side of the ship, they would have immediately rolled into this unknown deep sea. I can't swim. Help. Ah, ah, ah. Which novice village was a dead end from the beginning? Mom. Plan your master. A lightning bolt struck, and the ship made a sound of wood being split open. The people on board shouted wildly, and some were thinking of ways to escape, holding onto the railing to observe the angle of falling into the water. Some people are chopping at the wood on the ship, such as doors and windows, hoping to hold on to the wood for survival when the ship disintegrates, while others choose to lie flat on the deck, leisurely looking as if the ship, which is about to tip over at any moment, is swinging for them. Suddenly, a person was swayed to the side of this person, brother. With just one shout, he was shaken away, and after a while, he swung back. Unfortunately, this time he didn't have a chance to say a word and left again. When he finally returned, he hugged the person's head and lay on the deck. Brother, do you already have experience with being so calm? The person closed their eyes, unable to open them due to the heavy rain. After finally opening their eyes, they saw the guy holding their head pointing at their chest. He became anxious and said, "What do you mean? My chest is uneven, I should be a woman." The person didn't open their eyes and seemed to have passed away peacefully. What nonsense! The creaking sound of the ship about to disintegrate made me anxious, and I really didn't like this meaningless and time-consuming conversation. I can't say you're a human demon. You're right, too. The person opened her eyes and the rain hit her face, her delicate face without makeup, and with a smile that looked at death as if returning home. You're right, maybe I'm a man. What are you talking about? Are you obsessed with playing games? Are you male or female? I really wish I could give her 2 punches and say these meaningless things at some point. If you want to ask quickly, the ship is about to crack open. As if responding to her words, the big ship made a coherent creaking sound and suddenly cracked open. The seawater poured in, and the waves embraced it like countless hands. I said, "Do you have a secret to pass the level, your mother?" Goodoo, no one answered. Whether it's life or death, male or female, there's no answer to all of this. As for the secret to passing the level, please take a look below. He a person who was repeatedly born on this ship, a person who has never left the big ship. Are you asking her if she has any clearance secrets? Is this just a joke? If she had the secret to pass, could he still stay on this big ship? She can still die and resurrect over and over again, so she has passed away 5 times. When I was born for the first time, the sun shone on the sea level like a newborn. The small waves reflect the morning glow like a big fire, or like an overturned furnace. The red magma flows in the sea and disappears into the green splashes by the boat. The ship has always been in motion, and on the deck, she is the only one. Yes, when she was first born, she was the only one on the deck. After admiring the beauty of Chaoxia, she searched the entire ship but couldn't find anything she was looking for. What is she looking for? Find her name, background, and background. Yes. She woke up and was attracted by the rising sun in the east, but who was she after that? Why on a big ship? She can't even remember. People who have not experienced it before cannot understand her current mood. Sitting on the deck in confusion, she unconsciously felt no hunger as she touched her belly at noon. Who told me that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west? Who told me that people want to eat? Who told me that this world is not real? Unreal. She stood up and touched the mast beside her. She could see the color of the wood, the small cracks that had cracked through the sun and rain, and even understand how the mast was polished and erected. How could a newborn person understand these? She leaned up to the mast to smell the smell. That's right. It's the smell of wood. This world is real. She spread out her hand. Who told her this was her left hand and this was her right hand? If you have a name on your hand, then you should also have a name. But she couldn't remember, what was her name after all? Also, where does the big ship take itself? She looked east and found that the sun was about to set. Not right. The ship is sailing east in the morning, and the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west. At this time, the sun should be setting in the west. Why? The ship did not change its direction of travel, but the direction was wrong. Chaos. Is there a problem with one's own cognition? Panic. If there is no problem with the cognition in the head, it means the ship has changed direction unconsciously. She didn't understand why she was panicking, she just felt that she should try to change the course. She turned to the cabin and searched around but couldn't find anything to adjust the direction. Surprisingly, the ship didn't have a rudder. How did it twist its direction? By the way, it's the wind at sea with sails. She ran to the deck, intending to swing the sail and adjust the direction on her own, but she didn't expect to see black clouds first. The black clouds cover the sky, and the sea surface instantly becomes pitch black. When the last glimmer of light disappears, lightning strikes as scheduled, feet are unstable, and heavy rain pours. No one can remain calm in such an environment. She wanted to run to the cabin to take shelter, but the big ship split under her feet. The cold and salty seawater, with a salty smell, enveloped her, trying to struggle but sinking deeper and deeper. Help! Who will save her? No one in this world can hear her voice. She's about to die. Can someone tell her what her name is? In the moment when the darkness engulfed her, a voice came from her ear. This game is quite realistic, you see, even the marks of wood cracking have been made. Who? Who is talking? Countless questions flashed through my mind. Games. Is this a game? She wants to figure out what's going on. This door and window is also good, it's a mortise and tenon structure. More than one person's voice came through. The game planning is thoughtful. Opening her eyes again, she found herself leaning against the mast, the sun shining from the top of her head, and the air was very hot and dry. There were a few more people on the deck, counting the 6 men and 1 woman. That woman, like her, was wearing a short skirt and had a bulging chest. Upon seeing her peers, she exclaimed excitedly, "Hello." The woman turned her head and smiled as she glanced at the people around her. This person can't be a human demon, can he? He's so passionate, so close to him. Just like you, the people around laughed along. They are a group of 7, and the woman wearing a short skirt is not a woman, but a man playing with a woman's number. At this point, she had already accepted her fate, and the world she lived in was a gaming world. 23 times. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Should something happen to a female player, a game that makes all 5 senses of the player very realistic, on a large ship that nobody discovers. For example, without waiting for any response, these 7 people began to study the ship. How to upgrade a novice village designed on a ship. Fishing. Killing fish. Someone tentatively answered. That also requires tools. Do you have tools in your backpack? No. Which of you has it? No. I don't have either. The crowd chattered incessantly. What woman? At this moment, even if the 4 beauties are placed in front of them, they cannot stop their desire to explore the game. After discussing for a while, the 7 of them turned their heads and looked at the guy who was stunned in the spot. He had a female appearance, but it was unclear whether he was a man or a woman. Do you have any tools in your backpack? As a result, the person looked embarrassed and said, "Where are your backpacks?" Are you asking the other party if there are any tools in their backpack, and they are asking where your backpack is? Unless this person is not playing a game with them, how can they not find the location of their backpack? Silence spread on the deck for 5 seconds. One person said, "I don't even know where the backpack is, isn't it really a girl?" Even girls who don't play games now know to open the control panel one by one and take a look. I think this person may be playing someone else's account. Can it be a minor? Another person asked the people around him in confusion. It's impossible not to know where the backpack is. It's not stupid. The person looked at the guy sitting on the deck with a guarded expression. Noticing the 7 people's unfriendly gazes, she hesitated a bit and asked, "What are your names?" "You tell us your name first," said one person standing in front. "Don't talk to her," the other person whispered, "it's probably a human demon. Come on, play dumb for me here." Yeah, girls don't play this game now. But there are always people who don't listen to advice. My name is Autumn Moon Boundless, you can call me Boundless. Why isn't it the autumn moon? One of the 7 people deliberately joked with a smile. If you dare to call this damn name, I'll serve you with my fists. Autumn Moon is much taller and stronger than the one who asked. But what can make people shut up is not fists, but the fights and killings between friends in the game are nothing, just afraid that the 2 of them will fight and make outsiders laugh. How do I check my name? The sudden inquiry made the 2 people across from each other look over. This. You can see it by clicking on the panel. Her sincere questioning made 7 people doubt her judgment again. Watching her playing around for something, it was obvious that she had failed and her whole body was in a state of decadence. One person said, "The first time someone plays a game, they can't possibly not know their own name, they all choose their own names. It's also impossible to log into someone else's account. As we all know, there is no situation of proxy login in this game." Minors. Which underage hasn't played games? My niece is 4 years old this year and plays with that pink pig. Thank you George, thank you Dad, and hum twice. So, she's a human demon, pretending to be foolish in front of us. It's probably her first time playing the human demon account, and she hasn't mastered the essence of deceiving people yet. We are in the beginner's village, and it's too easy for people to see us pretending to be stupid at this time. Their voices were not low, and she heard every word. Can you tell me how you logged into the game? After pondering for a while, the 7 of them suddenly looked at her in shock after she asked a question. One person said, "There's another possibility." The 7 people who looked at each other seemed to want to confirm their conjecture from each other, and when they turned to this guy again, their eyes became hot and full of scrutiny, and they even surrounded her. The person sitting in the center couldn't help but feel pressure, so she finally stood up with the mast. I leaned against the mast before because I encountered a vortex after falling into the sea for the first time. The dizziness caused by spinning in the water did not subside even during her second birth. At this point, even if her hair was dizzy, she had to stand up. She could never lose her momentum to anyone. She is the NPC of the novice village. The 7 of them spoke in unison, all of whom were particularly surprised and confident. One person directly asked, "Is there anything I can help with? Do you need my help?" More than one person agrees with this viewpoint. "What can I do for you, sister?" For a moment, the 7 of them competed with each other, even pushing and shoving in order to be the first to get NPC's help. The actions of the 7 people also raised doubts among the people being asked. Am I really an NPC? But why does she know about NPC? No one can answer this question, she can only ask herself. Do awakened NPCs not even know their names and origins? Impossible. NPCs all have background introductions, so it's impossible not to have a name and background. Even the village chief of a novice village can be considered a name. But how did she know that the NPC must have a background introduction? Who told her? I can't remember. I have no memory of these cognitions at all. The brain seems to have developed a resistance reflex, and it even stings. She suddenly shook her head and frightened the 7 people surrounding her. Is this a bug? Ren. Can you contact the online GM? Gray. Someone has already opened the control panel. Just about to say something more, the sky suddenly darkened, thunder and lightning flashed, rainstorm poured, the ship shook in the wind, and 3 of the 7 people fell on the deck. The remaining 4 people went to pull the 3 people, but the ship split at this moment. What's going on? Someone exclaimed. The ship is sinking. That NPC is playing tricks. Perhaps the programmer is eliminating the bug. The last sentence seemed to be the answer she had pursued throughout her life, igniting her hopes as she sank into the sea. Perhaps I am just a bug, as long as I wait, I can be fixed and know everything I want to know. If she didn't appear on the deck the 3rd time, and if she finally remembered who she was, everything that happened to her wouldn't feel hopeless. Which game beginner's village is at sea? A female voice complained beside her. Fortunately, it hasn't been publicly tested yet, otherwise we would have driven away many players. So you're also an internal tester, a man said in a flattering tone. Zhaoshuyuan.com. I'm not, I'm the wealthy father, the female voice replied. This sentence gave a glimmer of hope in despair. She opened her eyes and saw 7 or 8 people standing on the deck, but her first concern was time. The sun sets in the west, and the red glow of the sunset renders half of the black clouds in the sky. At this point, there is already a dark cloud, and I don't have much time. I need to ask this female, Gold Lord Father, as soon as possible who she is. Perhaps this person knows game planners, knows their background, and even if they eventually find out they are NPCs, they will recognize them. But no one gave her a chance to get close to this woman. After the person mentioned that she was the Gold Daddy of this game, she was surrounded by people. Hello, I would like to ask how to leave this ship. I don't know. I just arrived and wanted to experience it first before reading the manual. I have read the manual and there is no such thing as big ship. We are likely to encounter a bug. Do you know how to leave this ship? I wanted to contact the online GM, but it turned out to be Gray. This sentence made everyone panic and hurry to look at their own panel. Let's make way, let's borrow. It's easy to squeeze in, and there aren't many people, but in the game, everyone's morality is clearly one level lower, and no one moves at all. At this moment, the sky darkened, lightning flashed and thunder roared, heavy rain poured down, strong winds swept through the waves, and the ship was fragile like a fallen leaf. Madam, can you tell me who I am? She shouted loudly as she couldn't squeeze in, but her voice couldn't withstand the sudden shattering of the ship. Ah! The ship has cracked open. Help! It seems that in times of crisis, people can't think of other words and have no intention of listening to others. The seawater engulfs the ship, and she, who still doesn't know her name, starts a new cycle. Brothers! You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Before opening their eyes, people are desperate. This is already the fourth time she has encountered this situation. The fourth time, there will be a fifth and sixth time in the future. Since there was no one on the deck, the number of people has gradually increased, but each time the appearance of the people is different, and the information brought to her is so limited that she doesn't know whether it is true or not. This world wants to trap her to death. Those who have memories have already had their fourth time. How many times have there been those who have not remembered before? What did she do wrong and have to accept such punishment time and time again? Don't ask anymore, let's just lie flat. As she had done 3 times before, she heard thunder, the ship's hull creaked with a gnashing sound, and a mixed sound. She heard someone call out, "Brother." She didn't know if she was calling herself, but the sounds of thunder, rain, and waves mixed together were too noisy. She couldn't be sure if the other person was calling her. Until one hand embraced her head. This is the result of 4 repeated deaths and rebirths, the first person to proactively greet her. I said, "Brother, do you already have experience with being so calm? Don't you have experience? The ship will disintegrate and sink, you will disappear, and I will embark on my 5th rebirth. Can these tell the other party what can be changed? Nothing can change, she doesn't know where she came from, let alone where these people trapped on the deck of the ship like her will go. One thing that needs to be emphasized is that she pointed to her chest and said, "My chest is uneven, I should be a woman." What nonsense! This person was too irritable, his voice exploding in his ear. I can't say you're a human demon. Ah, right. What's wrong with you guys calling a woman a human demon when they see her? You're right, maybe I'm a man. Hurry up and leave me, I want to welcome my 5th rebirth. Are you obsessed with playing games? Are you male or female? This sentence was like a spiritual light piercing into the brain, causing the ears of those trapped in confusion to ring for a moment. She could only grasp a few strands of Qingming in a daze. If you want to ask quickly, the ship is about to crack open. But it seemed that this world did not want her to have too much contact with people. The big ship split apart at the moment when her words fell, and the sea swept people into her arms, plunging the world into darkness. But deep in her mind, there are so many fleeting images calling out to her to explore her own background. The sun shines from the top of the head, and the air is so hot and dry. In front of it is the entrance stone of the university, but the characters on the stone are constantly changing their appearance, making it difficult to distinguish what the name is. It seems like Medical University or College of Science and Technology. This seems to be the entrance of a university, with a large avenue inside that attracts people who are scorched by the sun. Suddenly, one arm rested on the shoulder. Dude, you also came to report alone. The guy around me was sweating profusely. Get away from me, he said, pushing the person away. He walked into the campus alone, but the person didn't listen and stuck up again. What's wrong with a man's shoulder? I see you're quite unhappy. Our school is notorious for being difficult to take exams, and you're not satisfied with that. Are you going to take the top exam? Stay away from me. Are you looking for a beating? Wow, I like your personality. How come this guy has no skin or face? But for some reason, most of the depression in my chest dissipated. Under the shade of wudong trees, 2 people walked side by side in the crowd. The cheeky guy introduced himself, my name is Wu Tong. I'm a freshman majoring in information engineering. What about you? Computer science. I asked you which major, didn't I know I was also from the computer science department? Software engineering and development. It doesn't matter if the majors are different. There are many classes to attend together. Can we share the same dormitory? Wu Tong leaned over as he said, by the way, you haven't said your name yet. Yuan Chang. This name is good, there are no duplicate names. Look at me, Wu Tong, Wu Tong, Wu Tong. I have seen many people with the same name and surname who have the same pronunciation but different characters since I was young. Yuan Chang didn't know which word he meant by tong, but he was too familiar with it. Although it's a bit annoying, it's not annoying to communicate with others. He's a bright and scheming guy. Later interactions also confirmed this point. He played basketball, played games, slept in bed, and even cried and washed socks for a week. Of course, playing games also requires Yuan Chang himself. Yuan Chang went to the reporting office and registered his name. He met Wu Tong again in front of the same dormitory door. Before they could greet each other, they met a boy who was calling from the room. This person is shorter than the two of them, but his behavior is cool. He holds a phone in one hand and points to the bed by the window with the other, saying, "That position belongs to me, don't even grab it." As soon as he spoke, the person left, and Yuan Chang and Wu Tong entered the dormitory one after another. The dormitories in this university are very old, with wooden windows and doors, and any signs of dilapidation on them cannot be ignored. But the walls seem to have just been painted this year, exuding a new aura. The bed should also be newly purchased, with no signs of tearing off the packaging film on the corners of the table and under the bed. It's a good time. Wu Tong chose the bed by the door and said, "Our university has been established for almost 70 years now, and this teaching building will also be around 40 or 50 years old. You can see that the exterior is a good grandfather building, but I didn't expect it to be changed like this inside. We can also be considered lucky." Yuan Chang didn't answer this sentence. He chose the bed behind the door and started cleaning it. His diligent cleaning made Wu Tong envious and curious. "Do you also do household chores at home?" "Yeah," Yuan Chang said, "I used to have a brother. I have to take care of him at the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com, so I learned a lot." "So there's a brother." Wu Tong was shocked by the meaning behind these words and couldn't help but ask in detail, "So what does that mean?" "The meaning is that it's gone now, it's gone." Yuan Chang said, "I was killed when I was in my first year of high school, and now I'm the only child." When he said these words, he smiled, which made Wu Tong feel cold behind his back. You flashed through your mind the popular law program you had watched before. A certain boy got up and killed a roommate in anger after losing 6 consecutive cards in the dormitory. A certain boy's pursuit of a goddess was unsuccessful, and he poisoned his roommate who was in the same dormitory. I can't think deeply about things. I'm already considering changing dormitories. At this moment, a shy and handsome young man arrived at the entrance of the dormitory. He saw Yuan Chang and Wu Tong in the dormitory, bowing and introducing themselves voluntarily. "My name is Qing Jiahang, majoring in electronic commerce in the computer science department, from Hunan." The handsome little man smiled and had a dimple at the corner of his mouth. Despite his cute appearance, he was met with disdain from Wu Tong. "Can you stop talking with a smile and respond with your diaphragm?" Wu Tong turned his head. Qing Jiahang was not discouraged either. He walked into the dormitory and saw that there was no candidate for the other bed by the window. He put his backpack on the table under the bed and said to Wu Tong, "My mom said, don't hit the smiling person with your hand, make me laugh more." Your mother's precious man." Wu Tong stood up. His tall and imposing figure startled the handsome young man. "Wu Tong, don't bully your classmates," Yuan Chang said. "No one knows." At this moment, Wu Tong not only thought about how he could curl his braids at any time, but also figured out how Yuan Chang made his annoying brother disappear from Earth. Help! Wu Tong shouted inwardly. For years. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Threatening, the threat of red fruit. Wu Tong's face turned pale with fear. Qing Jiahang looked at Yuan Chang and said only one sentence. Wu Tong was as if he had lost his soul. He quickly cleared the situation and said, "I know you northerners just have a loud voice and are not trying to bully me." Yuan Chang and Wu Tongqi both glanced at him but didn't speak again. Qing Jiahong also turned his head to tidy up his bed, and the dormitory quieted down. But the silence lasted only a few seconds, and a group of people rushed in at the door. At first glance, it looked like parents, carrying bedding, luggage, and pots and kettles. In a dormitory of less than 30 square meters, 10 people suddenly crowded in. 6 people just entered, 3 men and 3 women, all between the ages of 40 and 50, and they were all family members of the same person. And this person walked behind these 6 people, holding nothing but snacks. This person Yuan Chang and Wu Tong met before entering the dormitory, and they met at the entrance. At that time, he was still on the phone, domineeringly pointing to the shop next to the window and saying it was his own. Neither Yuan Chang nor Wu Tong were the ones to argue with, and they did not compete with him for that booth. At this moment, 6 middle-aged people faced 3 young people who were both a bit reserved and proud. This emotion can only be understood by those who have been elders and experienced their children being admitted to their ideal universities. One of the 6 aunties smiled and said to the 3, "Classmate, I'm sorry. It's the first time my family, Nan, has traveled so far. As a parent, I'm not at ease, so we came together. Coincidentally, our relatives also wanted to travel together, so they came over. We're a bit crowded, so you don't mind." Wu Tong quickly said, I don't mind, isn't that what I should do?" Several elders have developed a favorable impression of Wu Tong, a young man. Each of the 6 people is saying, in the next 4 years, you must all be good and friendly with each other. Nan, please forgive me if I offend you in the future. Wu Tong was a bit impatient with such words, and his smile froze on his face. Don't talk anymore, do you know it's disturbing? Also, don't call me by my nickname. The boy who has been eating snacks protested to his elders. 6 parents scolded him a few words and then fell silent. They divide the work and cooperate, some help the children make beds, some go to the balcony to check, some go to the bathroom, and the small dormitory becomes even more crowded when they walk back and forth. This situation made Yuan Chang and others feel that they should leave the dormitory and come back after they helped the boy tidy up. It's getting late, Yuan Chang said first, do you two want to go to lunch with me? Alright, let's go together. Qing Jiahong leaned over and arrived at Yuan Chang's position from the gap reserved between a middle-aged uncle and the bed. Wu Tong hesitated for a moment and stood up from his desk. The actions of the 3 of them made the parents of the boy anxious. Nan, why don't we go together? Just tidy up your parents, your aunt, and uncles. Oh, the boy replied and followed Yuan Chang and the others to leave the dormitory. My name is Yunan, Nan from Nanshu. I major in intelligent science and technology in the computer science department and come from Hebei. Yunan said expressionlessly and coldly. Yuan Changdao said, this is Qing Jiahong, majoring in e-commerce in the Department of Computer Science. This is Wu Tong, majoring in information engineering in the Department of Computer Science. My name is Yuan Chang, majoring in software engineering in the Department of Computer Science. Qing Jiahong excitedly said, today is the first day for the 4 of us to meet, and we will be together for 4 more years in the future. Why don't we all announce our birthdays? No one opposed this proposal. The 4 of them mentioned the birthdays of both the lunar and lunar calendars. As a result, Yuan Chang had the largest birthday, followed by Wu Tong, Yunan, and Qing Jiahong. I've agreed for now, I won't be the second in line. I understand what I understand, Wu Tong raised his hand. Yuan Chang glanced at him, as if thinking of something, and said, then you are the 3rd, line up 1 by 1, the 4th, and the 5th. No one objected to this sorting. They walked around the campus, all the way towards the cafeteria. On the way to the cafeteria, Yunan asked, are you all here to report on your own? Don't parents come to see you off? My parents are busy doing business, Yuan Chang said. Wu Tong said, I don't want them to deliver it. I don't know how many things to remind me along the way, it's annoying. It's so nice to come here alone, I just fell asleep. When I was very young, my parents divorced. I was raised by my grandmother, and she had difficulty walking, so I came over on my own. Qing Jiaheng was a bit sad, and he said, I will make a lot of money in the future and bring my grandmother to my side. What about you? I learned this just to be honest and play games. I'm not afraid of being told, I can play as long as I want. Wu Tong looked resentful. Same, said Yunnan. The three of them looked at Yuan Chang, who seemed to be distracted, but still said, it's the same. Play games openly. Qing Jiaheng was a bit envious of these three people, and he also wanted to have this kind of confidence. Unfortunately, his parents are different from each other. In their first year of college, if it weren't for Qing Jiaheng's surveillance, all three of them would have failed. Who would have thought that there were 2 all.1 computers, 3 laptops, and 4 tablets in the dormitory of 4 people? These electronic devices have no other purpose but to play games. From single-player games to mobile games, from computer games to VR games, they have a wide range of interests and have almost played all the famous games on the market. Once, Qing Jiaheng was troubled by his inability to buy a computer. But since becoming roommates with these three people, he has never lacked a computer, and even these three people helped him build a tablet with the purpose of forming a team of 4 to play games. Because of this tablet, Qing Jiaheng consciously took on the task of supervising the academic performance of the 3 big brothers and never let them fail. Under his supervision, all 4 people in the dormitory managed to get through this first year smoothly. When the new semester arrived, Qing Jiaheng found that Yuan Chang had bid farewell to the game. Moreover, he kept reading books all day long. One time, he accidentally saw what he was reading, and Qing Jiaheng was not feeling well. No, he thinks Yuan Chang is crazy. Yuan Chang surprisingly read all the books related to medicine. A computer science student was reading medical books, and if he wasn't dreaming, he would be crazy. After class this day, Yuan Chang was carrying a medical book and going to the library again. Qing Jiaheng finally put out the doubts he had been having for many days and asked the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, do you want to change majors? No, Yuan Chang said, I chose my major by myself, but I've been deceiving my parents into choosing medicine. They want me to become a doctor. Last time I went home, they asked me what I learned in school, and I answered with knowledge of high school biology and fabricated it myself. I'm sure I won't be able to keep it hidden in the future, so I plan to take a bachelor's degree in medicine by myself so that I can continue learning the computer science I like. If they still want me to become a doctor in the future, I can handle it. You want to study 2 unrelated majors. Qing Jiaheng felt that even if Yuan Chang was not crazy, he was not far from being crazy. But after careful consideration, he also chose a second major. Unlike Yuan Chang, Qing Jiaheng's second major is also related to computer science. In this way, Qing Jiaheng successfully obtained dual degrees and entered a large factory to work during his 4 years in college. In just 1 year, he brought his grandmother from the countryside to live with him. Wu Tong, Yuan Chang, and Yunnan each passed the postgraduate entrance examination. The 3 who were once on the brink of failing the exam now have new goals. They found Qing Jiaheng and told him about their plan. Is it possible for you to participate? Yunnan remained cool. But there was a flame of hope burning in his eyes, so he didn't look so aloof. Just 1 less than you, Wu Tong continued to work hard. Among the 4, he had the greatest change, as if he had suddenly become an uninteresting adult. Yuan Chang, however, remained like a day for several years, with a worried expression on his face and a flickering flame in his eyes. He said, we have funds, technology, and equipment, but we only need someone who understands both technology and the market to join us. We all have high expectations and trust in you. What do you say? Qing Jiaheng looked at his brothers and said, of course join. Come again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the sun shines unobstructed on the smooth deck from above, the temperature reaches its highest point. The deck of the big ship was scorched and no one was willing to sit. Everyone was walking up and down, and upon closer inspection, there were over 30 people. It was as lively as a market here. The sunlight was dazzling, and the empty cabin was now crowded with people. The door was squeezed out, and someone plunged their head into the crowd, but most of their bodies were still scorched by the sun. Someone's head was squeezed out of the window, and their body was still in the cabin. Some people have their bodies deformed due to being squeezed, and their feet and hands are not in the same direction. If this situation had not been witnessed with one's own eyes, anyone would have thought it was a straightforward description of the manga. Similarly, if this is the real situation, the scene inside the cabin cannot be imagined. Will it result in human life? However, no one cares about their safety. Even the squeezed parties find it very interesting. All of this indicates that this is not the real world. Everyone knew this answer before coming here, and they enjoyed it. But in this group of people, there is only one person, who is leaning against the side of the ship. If it weren't for the railing blocking it, the ship could roll into the sea with just a slight shake. But no one cares, just like they don't care about their own safety. Games, who hasn't died a few times in the game yet? The sea was split open by a large ship, and the seawater beside the ship rolled out a blue color, mixed with white splashes like a large piece of rough jade. This beautiful color seems to dispel the fear in people's hearts. Finally, after passing away 5 times, I finally know who I am. Yuan Chang, a boy. She is indeed a male playing female account, and besides her name and gender, she still doesn't know what she looks like. In her memories, she once thought she was the handsome little guy named Qing Jiaheng. But the memories about this person are all narratives, without dialogue, and even without a first-person perspective, so she is certain that she is not Qing Jiaheng. Imagining her own appearance, she felt a wave of melancholy. Man, how can she not be handsome when she touches her face? He must be incredibly handsome. Every generation of women in school like him, such as the Imperial Sister, Loli, and Little Fairy. They all had to be defeated by their brother Suit Pants, embracing each other and finding their way, thinking too deeply and even forgetting that they were a female account at the moment. She is still a slender waist and long legs, with fair and beautiful skin. Unfortunately, wearing a dusty short skirt and a dirty T-shirt, she somewhat overshadowed her beauty. Beauty. Someone was calling her. But she doesn't think this is calling herself. She's a handsome guy. Beauty. Until the person reached out and placed their hand on her shoulder. Shocked and panicked. No less than the scene of appearing on the deck without one's own memory, companions, or source. Who's the beauty to call? Who's the beauty to call? She was anxious. Can't you tell I'm a pure man? The person pointed at her bulging chest and asked, do you call this a pure man? Human demon, haven't you heard of men playing on your account? I've heard of it before, but I've never seen anyone playing a female account and shouting around. The person joked, I heard that this game focuses on reality. Anyway, you're also a man, so you shouldn't mind this account. Before this person could say anything more, the fist had already reached the other person's face. I told you not to wear pants when you go out. I told you not to wear pants when you go out. As he spoke, he struck fiercely, causing other players who were originally indifferent to surround him. Don't wear pants. Aren't these all game appearance settings? Who wouldn't wear pants? This is wearing pants. It's just an excuse, just find a reason to hit someone. Perhaps players on the big ship will have to fight each other if they want to level up, someone said with uncertainty. This fanciful statement was actually taken as a suggestion and executed by someone. Immediately, there were a few more people fighting on the deck, even the crowded cabin was about to fight. They were very convenient for fighting, and strangers were within reach. In no time, you pinched me, and I started beating you. A group of people crowded together and engaged in a brawl, causing the cabins to tremble as if they were about to collapse. The crowd engaged in passionate brawls, but no one noticed the sunset of the sun and the heavy suppression of black clouds. Until it was completely dark, thunder and lightning flashed in the clouds, and soon the rainstorm poured down, the wind blew up and the waves were 10 meters high, and the people fighting on the deck were washed to and fro. The ship shattered in just a moment, just like many times in the past. When people opened their eyes again, another group of players had already changed on the deck. There were no more memories surging this time, and at the same time, she was full of resentment towards the fifth rebirth. The player who took the opportunity to tease her had not played enough. By the way, without taking action, I still don't know how capable I am of fighting. This move is quite systematic, with a left punch and a right hook, spinning and hiding, sweeping the legs. But it has left that kid with no fighting power. It's a bit regrettable that I haven't been addicted to it myself. At this moment, her mood had changed, no longer panic and confusion, but anticipation. This ship has sunk 5 times, and according to the time in the game, 5 days have already passed. I don't know how to convert the time in this game to the time in reality. What is the situation in my own reality? Anyway, it's been 5 days and she hasn't eaten anything and doesn't feel hungry. Looking at the people on the deck again, this time there were half fewer people than last time, and the temperature was not so hot. Everyone was free to move around, and no one noticed her. Wu Tong, Qing Jiaheng, Yunnan, what are you doing? I remember all 3 of you now. Come and help me. I can't stay any longer. She shouted at the sea, and some people followed suit. She was really seeking help, and these players were just traveling. This scene directly made people laugh. She is too familiar with the big ship, and under the mast is her old position. Just as I was about to sit back, I heard the player next to me say, "Is the game almost ready for public beta? Is it coming soon?" Last time we talked about the public beta on December 8th, but now it's already February 7th. I'm not sure what the game company is up to on Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. I've heard about this, said the person in an excited tone, unaware of how anxious the listeners were. I have a classmate who works in their game company and works in the visual department. I heard that their CEO, who developed a neural connector, has fallen into a coma and is currently undergoing medical treatment in the hospital. Neural connector. A familiar name. Neural connectors, also known as brain-computer interfaces. The brain sends commands, neurons decrypt and transmit signals, and our body makes various actions under commands through signals transmitted by various nerves. What we are currently doing is connecting brain-computer interfaces to our games, allowing players to have real 5 senses in the game. On the basis of these 5 senses, we can also become the people we want to become, such as those who want to become shorter, those who want to lose weight. We can even use brain-computer interfaces to let blind people see the real world, allowing those who cannot walk to run or even fly freely in the game. Who is talking? Is it me? Is it Yuan Chang? In the small conference room, there were 4 people sitting, including him. The other 3 people didn't need to look closely to know they were Wu Tong, Qing Jiaheng, and Yunnan. Your idea of creating games for people who don't need to play games cannot be realized in the market. Qing Jiaheng's face appeared in his mind as he patted the table, seemingly refuting this idea. In fact, he was just poor and afraid that their company's games would not make money, which made him regret his decision to leave the big company and afraid that he would not be able to give his grandmother a good life. But Yuan Chang said another sentence, leaving Qing Jiaheng speechless and without any reason to oppose it anymore. He said, "We can create the appearance of a player's deceased loved one based on their memory, which is my original intention in creating this game." The other 3 people in the dormitory all know that Yuan Chang has a brother who passed away early. Not really. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. A pile of bird droppings dripped onto the forehead, shattering memories. In the first 5 stages of rebirth, there was never a bird, let alone bird droppings falling on the head. Looking at the clothes on my body again, they seem to be even more torn and dirty than before. Someone is doing optimization, said a voice in their heart. Doing optimization by tearing clothes from the initial stage of the game is called optimization, which can only occur in the game. And she discovered that the game had been optimized, and only she could be aware of it among all the players on the deck. Because only she remained unchanged on this ship. She thought that today there were only these small changes. In the near future, she would still experience lightning and thunder, rainstorm and torrential rain, and the strong wind and waves smashed the ship unexpectedly. A person suddenly jumped onto the quiet deck, with a slender figure as if a praying mantis had turned into a spirit. He held a crescent-shaped curved knife in his hand, wearing a bamboo hat on his head, dressed in pitch-black armor, and the cloak behind him resembled the wings of a bat. The moment it landed on the deck, a whirlwind of killing began, and in an instant, the player on the deck fell to the ground. Before he could say anything, the cold-blooded assassin's machete hung on his neck. At such a close distance, she saw a face under the assassin's hat, a pair of crimson eyes so familiar, as if she had looked at it for a lifetime. "Can you tell me your name before you die?" "Yuan Chang." A hoarse voice came from under the black veil, and a blood-red scene flashed by, turning the world into black and white. Shocked and panicked, how many times has this been? Yuan Chang, how could this assassin be Yuan Chang? If he is Yuan Chang, who is he? Memory couldn't tell her the answer. Once again opened its eyes, and it was still a familiar ship and a familiar deck. This time, there were fewer people on the deck than before, only 3 or 5. But unlike the first 6 times, they all have names on their heads. They all have names, so I should also have a name myself. She became excited and casually grabbed a player pointing at her head, asking, "What is my name?" "Funny. You don't know your name." The person shook off her hand and turned to explore the cabin. She went to ask the next one again. There were only a few people on the deck, why couldn't you tell her what her name was? Finally, a player pronounced the name on top of her head, Yu Yao. Yu Yao. Very familiar. A trace of a young girl flashed before her eyes. She was not sure if the person was Yu Yao, but she could be certain that it was not herself because she was looking at her. The girl in school uniform was scolding, "XX, you're the worst loser I've ever seen. Bah pa, I don't need you to worry about my affairs." The voice I made seemed to have a voice transformer added, and the sound quality was like a chipmunk. Although my memory is blurry, it clearly tells me that Yu Yao is not my name. She also saw the real Yuan Chang with her own eyes, and now she doesn't know who she is. A few seagulls flew on the deck, either resting or cuddling and affectionate. Who can say that such a vivid scene is not real? Yu Yao, just Yu Yao. To the outside world, this is my own name. As for the origin, perhaps more experiences will naturally bring back more memories of the past, and you will know who you are. The sun rose above my head, and suddenly a figure blocked the dazzling sunlight. With a familiar curved blade, it drew cold rays. The cold light disappeared, and another patch lay on the deck. This time, Yu Yao did not ask who the person was. Because he had already reported his name when he received the knife, "I am Yuan Chang, an assassin who specializes in robbing and killing large ships." As the words fell, the person leaped down from the railing of the big ship like a swallow in the forest. Yu Yao watched as the figure disappeared, and a hint of resentment welled up in her heart. She said to herself in her heart, "Next time, you will never let the knife cross my neck again." Because of this resentment, Yu Yao changed his previous half-dead appearance. She woke up again and no longer longed for the position under the mast. Instead, she went back into the cabin and didn't believe she couldn't find a suitable weapon. Even if you can't find it, you can still do it yourself. Even if you can't kill Yuan Chang, you must catch this killer. It's not her first time coming to the cabin, but it's her first time wanting to go to the bottom floor to see. I have seen it before on the first floor, and there is no rudder as she thought. The small building is empty, with nothing added except for the players. However, Yu Yao clearly remembered that there was a movable door on the floor of the first floor. At that time, she only glanced at it and thought it didn't exist, nor dared she develop so much curiosity. But at this moment, in order to retaliate against the guy who killed him twice, Yu Yao is going to venture into the underground cabin. With both hands pressed on the door panel, a transparent panel appeared in front of me, with a line written on it. Open with caution, consequences are at your own risk. What other consequences can there be in the gaming world? It's just another round. Yu Yao has extensive experience in this matter, and she did not hesitate to use her hands hard. When the players saw that she was going to move this trap door, they quickly stepped forward to help. With the help of 3 people, the door was opened. The door was pitch black, and other players were hesitating. Yu Yao had already jumped in first. Just as she jumped down, the darkness disappeared and 2 candles lit up. The other players saw that it was safe here, so they followed in. The cabin in the basement is large, and the space extends below the deck. Under the candlelight, one can see the overall structure of the ship, with horizontal keels and wooden blocks pieced together to form the hull. Yu Yao took a candle from one of the candlesticks and walked deeper with the candlelight. You can see hanging fishing nets, harpoons, and other fishing tools, and dried fish that have been dead for an unknown amount of time can be seen everywhere on the floor. In addition to fishing tools, there are also several beds and a few pairs of long boots here. The players who followed also saw these things. One person said, "You call this game rough, it's particularly delicate in this kind of life scene." Yeah. Someone walked deeper and there was a wardrobe, searching for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. I don't know who it was, but there were a few pieces of clothes inside. Upon closer inspection, it is still waterproof and should be used by fishermen. A few people are very interested in these and enjoy watching them. But some people also noticed Yu Yao's actions, and she chose a fishing gun from the fishing tools. This brother, a player who had watched her for a long time asked, "I read the official profile before entering the game, and there was no introduction to this level at all. Do you know the secret to leaving?" "I don't know how to leave." Yu Yao didn't correct the term brother, because she wasn't sure if she was a man or a woman. Anyway, the game was already like this, and everyone assumed she was a human demon. Since that's the case, she decided not to waste her words anymore. She fiddled with the fishing spear and said, "In case of any unforeseen circumstances." She didn't say anyone would board the ship and commit murder, because she had only experienced it twice. What if the third time was different? It's better to pretend to be on the ship for the first time and know nothing about these things. Her words were like a signal, as all players began to search for weapons. Although most people here can wield a weapon, there is still a difference between a spear and a harpoon. Someone tried to exchange a harpoon with Yu Yao, but Yu Yao turned his head and refused. That person is reluctant to let go, but unfortunately they are all beginners who have just entered this game. The people around them may not be companions, so naturally no one helps him grab Yu Yao's fishing spear. She pushed the guy who was trying to exchange weapons with her away, even pointing a fishing gun at him and saying, "If you keep making trouble, you'll just go back in the same way." This statement makes this person dare not argue anymore. He came to participate in the game beta with money, and his main task is to discover bugs and report them for handling. If he conflicts with colleagues who also participated in the beta, then the next time there is such a fun and profitable job, it will not be his turn. Water, land, and air amphibians. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stepping out of the underground cabin, the players behind were still complaining about something. You don't have to listen carefully to know he's complaining that Yu Yao didn't give him the fishing gun. Yu Yao turned around and glanced at this person, already knowing that she wouldn't let the fish gun go. "Why do you still talk nonsense? I saw this player extend his 2-meter-long harpoon out of the hatch and throw it on the ground floor. In order not to delay going out, the harpoon was thrown a bit far. When he climbed his hand up the floor with force, Yu Yao watched with his own eyes as the harpoon on the floor disappeared. She looked at the fishing gun in her hand in surprise, intact and undamaged. Why did this player's harpoon disappear? Feeling puzzled, the player with the harpoon finally left the underground, but couldn't find their harpoon on the ground floor. He looked angrily at Yu Yao and said, "Did it be you? Did you steal my harpoon? I have already given you the harpoon, and you didn't even give me the harpoon." "I didn't take it," Yu Yao explained weakly. This person didn't let her go as before, but wanted to find someone to judge and reason with. At this moment, 3 more people arrived on the first floor, and Harpoon Man witnessed with his own eyes the disappearance of their fishing nets and harpoons. It was then that he believed it was not Yu Yao who had taken them. "Why hasn't your fishing gun disappeared?" "I don't know." Compared to this group of players, Yu Yao was truly asking 3 questions without knowing. Players may have read the instructions or introduction before entering the game, and may even have a video guide. Yu Yao has never seen anything, and she is completely blank about this game. She is better than a newborn, probably because she doesn't need anyone to take care of her. A player analyzed the situation of weapons disappearing seriously and said, weapons in the game can also be considered as props. There is only one reason why props are refreshed by the system. They have no owner or are not bound by the owner, and then the props fall somewhere. In the state of no one picking them up, as soon as time passes, the props will be flushed by the system. But we all hold it in our hands. The player who lost the weapon reluctantly spread out his palm. It wasn't placed anywhere. Harpoon Brother also joined in. "My harpoon is on the floor, but it never takes more than 20 seconds. Even if there is a time limit to refresh, it cannot be so fast." "Yeah, it disappeared too quickly. It seems like it disappeared right after leaving the basement." The players all agreed. Then their gaze fell on Yu Yao again, who said, "I really don't know anything. Is there another possibility?" Players are always enthusiastic about exploring and researching the game, and one person analyzed their years of gaming experience. "The owner of this ship is this brother, and we went to her basement with her consent. However, everything recorded from the basement is owned and we cannot take it with us." "You're not logical," Harpoon said as he looked at Yu Yao like an enemy. "You said this was her thing, and I thought it was a bug in the game. When I get out of the game, I'll write a report." This sentence silenced the players. How could they forget that this game is still in the beta testing stage? Therefore, any situation in the game could potentially be their bonus commission. These people immediately changed their attitude, as if they had lost their passion for the game, and seemed to unanimously believe that the disappearance of weapons was a bug. Yu Yao didn't want to talk to them anymore. Their attitude towards the game made her unhappy, but she couldn't explain why they were unhappy. She arrived on the deck, and the sight that caught her eye was trembling. The players who were originally watching the scenery on the deck all fell to the ground, with a thin and tall man standing in the center. This person is wearing a black outfit, a hat on his head, a black cloth mask, and only a pair of crimson eyes are visible. The black cloak danced with the wind at its feet, as if it was about to transform into wings the next second, carrying him through the air. This person is the assassin that Yu Yao has been worried about suddenly appearing. Before she could see the situation on the deck clearly, the fish gun in her hand was already aimed at him. Whoosh! The arrows flying out were like unstoppable warriors. Their piercing sound shook people's hearts. But unfortunately, it didn't hit. The person was as if he could fly, and as the arrows were about to reach him, he dodged and flipped over. The shiny, silver-black cloak made him pause in mid-air for a moment. This kind of scene is truly magical. Even if Yu Yao doesn't want to admit it, he must admit that Yuan Chang really knows how to fly in the game. However, flying also requires the use of that black cloak. Even if he could fly, Yu Yao had never seen him flying from any direction in this vast ocean. Therefore, further investigation is needed to determine where he actually came from. At this moment, he escaped the arrows shot by Yu Yao and began to move quickly. even using the wings transformed from a cloak to fly low in the air. The speed was so fast that only a few cold lights could be seen, and the blade cut across his face. Yuan Chang successfully harvested all the game players, except for Yu Yao. With a shiny curved knife in front of him, Assassin Yuan Chang's crimson eyes carried a playful smile as he said, "You're a bit interesting. It's the first time I've met someone who can escape my blade." Yu Yao carefully recalled that she could see how the other person was moving when they rushed over. Yuan Chang's sprinting, jumping, flying, and even cutting were like frames in her eyes, as if she suddenly had a special function to slow down the person's movements as long as she wanted, to the point where she could easily avoid them. For an assassin, a sudden mistake is an unqualified performance, and even though he is covering it up, there is still a hint of annoyance in his tone. "Because you're not strong enough," Yu Yao sneered as he repaired his knife. "Is that right?" Yuan Chang looked at his curved sword, "Then try this again." He threw the curved knife, creating a circular shape on the blade, with one handle turning into two. The handle collided and transformed into a rotor flying towards Yu Yao. Yuan Chang thought she would dodge, and even predicted where she would dodge. He looked for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, and at the moment when the curved blade was thrown out, he flew forward to try to take her down. Unexpectedly, Yu Yao didn't hide, so she stood still and didn't move. The spinning blade flew around her slender waist, leaving no skin or flesh wound on her waist. At the moment when the flying blade rotor flew out, it caught up with Yuan Chang approaching. His position was exactly the path that the blade was about to fly over. The blade was close in front of him, and he could only choose to avoid it. However, due to not being able to avoid it, he left a bloodstain on his face and his face scarf was damaged as a result. Angry, Yuan Chang forcefully pulled off his face scarf and threw it on the ground to step on it. Then he pointed at Yu Yao and said, "You can do it, you can actually dodge my flying knife." Having escaped twice, Yu Yao was not complacent because she knew the crisis had not been resolved. The flying blade rotor returned to Yuan Chang's hand, and his hat was pressed low, only his chin visible. Yu Yao was very vigilant at this moment, and she said, "You have attacked me twice, and now it's my turn no matter what." Before he could finish speaking, the fish gun aimed at Yuan Chang across from him. But before she could shoot an arrow, Yuan Chang had already retreated a few meters, then sprinted to the left and ran to the side of the ship, stepping on the railing and flipping over. Yu Yao's fishing spear always followed his movements, as if it could automatically locate him. She even felt a bit pitiful for Yuan Chang's efforts. Because in her eyes, she could see all Yuan Chang's movements clearly. She even roused in her heart that the guy's butt was a little big, a little different from the overall figure, and it seemed very heavy. She couldn't help but worry that Yuan Chang might accidentally fall into the sea from the railing. As if verifying her concerns, the person flipped over the railing directly. Yu Yao walked over and found that Yuan Chang had already transformed into a bat and flew around the ship's hull. But after only a moment of gliding, I plunged into the waves. Weapons come with them. You are listening at novelfull.audio. People who can turn into bats can still dive, and it's not surprising that Yu Yao didn't notice its tracks at the beginning. The waves surged as before, the sun rose, and the temperature was just right. The players on the deck disappeared, leaving only a solitary figure standing among them. Yu Yao looked at the fish spear in his hand. The fish spear was made of wood and looked like an ancient crossbow, but it lacked the bow opening. In addition, compared to crossbow arrows, the tail of the arrow has an additional slender snake rope and a thread wheel. As early as he got the fishing spear, Yu Yao had already removed the snake mouth rope, otherwise it would be difficult to replace the arrow and recycle it. She felt strange when she thought that all the weapons the players had obtained from the underground cabin had disappeared, and only the weapons in her own hands had not disappeared. Previously, I was in a hurry to confront Yuan Chang without carefully observing the fish gun in my hand. However, when I looked back, I found a badge on the handle of the fish gun that resembled both a bird and a beast. The emblem seems to be engraved or burned out, and the more you look at it, the more familiar it becomes. Yu Yaomeng lifted his head and looked at the flag floating at the top of the mast, which was printed with this emblem. This discovery only excited Yu Yao for a moment, as it could only indicate that the ship and the things in the cabin belonged to the same person or group, but whether these were her belongings remains to be determined. Yu Yao plans to go to the underground cabin again. She no longer wants to know about her past and only wants to kill Yuan Chang once, just once to make her vent this anger. When she arrived at the underground cabin, she found that the weapons that had disappeared from the players had been hung up again. When she hung the fishing gun in her hand, the air in front of her suddenly shook. Yu Yao thought something magical would happen, but he heard thunder outside. She only then remembered that time had come and she was going through a ninth rebirth again. The ship made a terrible creaking sound, and just as Yu Yao was waiting for the ship to collapse, the surrounding air suddenly emitted strands of golden light. The boat under his feet was shaking, and the candles on the candlestick were also shaking. Yu Yao was shaken and sat down. The cracking sound was particularly loud, which made Yu Yao instinctively close his eyes and cover his ears. After an unknown amount of time, she opened her eyes but did not see the seawater pouring back. Has the big ship been saved? Yu Yao wants to go out and take a look. But she was fixed by something in the void, unable to move and could only stay in place waiting. After an unknown amount of time, her eyes blinked and the imprisoned power disappeared. Finally, she could move. Standing up and moving around, a transparent panel appeared in front of me. Yu Yao looked at the font on it and finally gained some understanding of this gaming world. Hello, respected gamer Yu Yao. The bug in your ghost ship dungeon has been eliminated, and you can continue to explore the game, Dreamland. Yu Yao reached out to touch the transparent panel and found that it could slide. She slid the panel and discovered more content. The game, Dream of a Different World, is mainly planned by Yuan Chang and consists of 5 nightmares. Completing all the tasks in the nightmares will complete the level. Currently, the player's area is a ghost ship, which belongs to the Sea Nightmare, among the 5 nightmares. To complete the task of the Sea Nightmare, you must first subdue the pirate bat Yuan Chang. That's all for this part of the explanation. The following slides are gone. Yu Yao closed this text pop-up and went to the homepage. I don't know how Yuan Chang designed the game in the real world, but the homepage only has a personal profile and attributes, without any called shopping malls or warehouses. So, how do players put the items they have obtained in the game? How can you make money from playing games without a shopping mall? Yu Yao helplessly thought that this terrible game was still in beta testing, and he was trapped on a big ship repeatedly dying and resurrecting because the game was not yet perfect. So, it seems understandable that the player's homepage looks perfunctory. Do you understand me? Even if she knew what the game was all about, she still didn't know who she was. Is that all? What else can we do? I have died so many times and never returned. Thinking of leaving the cabin at this moment and seeing the assassin Yuan Chang on the deck outside, she felt that Yuan Chang was here to torture her. And there's that game description that's so simple that it can't be any simpler. Why should we win over Yuan Chang and how should we win over him? Is it convincing people with reason, or is it convincing people with virtue or bribing them? Since you said you want to subdue him, why can't you tell the player how to subdue him? With a sigh, without a detailed explanation, one can only explore on their own. Yu Yao wanted to go get the hanging fish gun again, but as soon as he touched it, a text box popped up on the fish gun explaining something. Prop name. Positioning fish spear, attribute description. Attack power 30%, defense power 5%, vampire plus 15 spell damage 1200, prop quality. Medium, additional dynamic vision, can see quickly moving targets clearly. Originally, I was able to avoid Yuan Chang's assassination thanks to the additional skill of this positioning fish spear. This is good. It should be considered a good weapon with moderate quality. Yu Yao took the fishing spear, and at this moment, she couldn't put it down. Fingers caressing the emblem on the grip, to my surprise, I saw a few more words. Do not move anything belonging to Yu Yao. Surprisingly, it's really my own thing. So this big boat should also be her own thing, she thought to herself at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, and then went to see other items. Sure enough, both the fishing net and harpoon had their own badges. How did I put on this badge? Yu Yao called up his task panel and searched for it but couldn't find it. I searched in the cabin again and finally found a soldering iron, which turned out to be branded. In this way, this big ship really belongs to itself. Can it still be called a ghost ship? It's clearly my own boat. What's going on here? Yu Yao felt that something must have happened before he lost his memory, not just because the game encountered a bug. I can't figure it out, I'll find out sooner or later. She's not in a hurry anymore. On the boundless sea, a ship silently sailed. 3 or 5 players on the deck were enjoying the sea scenery when suddenly a figure walked out of the 2-story small building. You, who are you? I am the owner of this ship, Yu Yao said. Are you an NPC? The players became excited, can you tell us the secret to leaving the ship? Yu Yao did not answer this question, but said, once you board my ship, you must work for me, otherwise you will leave my big ship. The players were very angry after hearing Yu Yao's words, and someone said, your big boat. Do you have any evidence? One person agreed. This is clearly a ghost ship, how could it become your ship? A player muttered softly. Yu Yao pointed to the flag on the mast and said, my emblem is printed on the flag, and the system recognizes that this ship belongs to me. This is your ship, what about the ghost ship? The players were half convinced. I don't know, there's only my ship on the sea, how can I know where the ghost ship is? Yu Yao looked at the sea, her doubts in her heart were no less than those of these players. Change. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The sky is changing colors, as if adjusting. The wind at sea seems to have a direction, it used to blow randomly. All of this seems to be saying that the gaming world is gradually improving. Yu Yao looked at the changing world, perhaps when it truly improved, he could remember who he was. Retrieving her gaze, Yu Yao looked at the players around her. Before that, she didn't want to have too much contact with these people for many reasons. Afraid of being asked about one's background and name, afraid of bearing too much expectation, such as being asked about the secret to completing a game. The most frightening thing is to expect them to save themselves from here. Repeated restarts, with a different group of people boarding each time. Yu Yao gradually understood that the only one who could save her was herself. With his previous experiences, Yu Yao needed to first block the assassin Yuan Chang's surprise attack in order to survive, and then hide in the underground cabin to avoid the collapse of the ship. But first, it's important to try to reveal the information you already know to these players and try to make them live together as they imagine. Do you say that badge belongs to you? A player disdainfully said, the game has not been publicly tested yet, and the internal test data will be repeatedly refreshed, without any files left. Yeah, you said these are all yours. Do you have any evidence? Evidence. The badge on her head never allowed them to climb up and see, and she couldn't give them the fish gun in her hand. If they didn't return it to her after seeing it, it would be her weapon for survival. So, the only way to prove it is to take them to the underground cabin for a look. Even if they take the things inside, they don't have to worry about them taking them away as they will return to their original position when they leave the ground. You come with me, Yu Yao led 3 players to the trap door. She was about to reach out when 2 other players on this level, who had been observing for some time, spoke up and blocked her, that door can't be opened. After listening to the 3 players who followed in, one of them reached out to pull the movable door, but he didn't open it. We can't open it. The 3 of them tried one by one, but couldn't open the trap door. Yu Yao helplessly reached out and said, this door is very heavy. The last time she and 3 players worked together to open the door because it was too heavy to close. Later, She dodged the ship's collapse in the underground cabin and discovered that everything inside was her own. She dares not leave the door open even if others cannot take her belongings with her. This made later players think that this door really couldn't be opened, but it was just too heavy. When it was said that the door could be opened, all the players were excited. 4 people crowded in front of the trapdoor, leaving no room for Yu Yao to intervene. After the door opened, looking at the pitch-black entrance, this group of people were not as cautious as before and jumped in directly. On the contrary, Yu Yao was ranked behind, and the result was uncomfortable. She always felt like she was leading the wolf into the house. It's pitch black, which of you has a light? 5 people were all crowded at the entrance, and there was no place for Yu Yao to rest. They are all initial settings, who would bring the lights? Does anyone bring a fire? You can't smoke again, what kind of fire should you bring? What do you think of this pitch-black scene? You ask me, who am I asking? Don't make any noise. Someone tried to maintain order, the person in front should go ahead and explore the way to make room for the brother to come in. You go first. I'm standing behind. Unexpectedly, the orderly person started arguing. How can I go if you don't leave first? I'm not leaving. The small entrance was filled with arguments, and Yu Yao couldn't get in a word. This scene is really comical and funny. Where are the people? A voice came from the deck. This voice is too familiar. I didn't expect these players to delay for so long, and the bat killer Yuan Chang has already arrived. Yu Yao didn't have time to talk nonsense to these people anymore. She checked her fishing gun a little and then walked out. Is it difficult for you to be the only one on this deck? Yuan Chang placed his machete on his shoulder, and his black cloak was blown up, as if about to rise in the wind. Yu Yao pointed his fishing spear at Yuan Chang and said, "Stop talking nonsense. If you dare to take one step forward, I'll give you a shot." She was full of defense, and the atmosphere became tense. But the few second-rate men who appeared behind her, regardless of the atmosphere, looked at Yuan Chang and asked Yu Yao, "Who is he?" "Is it your husband?" a player asked with gossip and full of jokes. "Is this a property in dispute for divorce?" another player sarcastically said. Yu Yao gritted his teeth. If it weren't for Yuan Chang standing across from him, he would definitely give each of these 2 goods a shot. "Oh, my prey is here." Yuan Chang approached with a smile, "Look at you putting down your fishing gun and I'll take the person I want. How about that?" Yu Yao remained silent. There is a humanitarian among the players. I know this person, as stated in the game description. It seems to be the big boss of the ghost ship dungeon. Why is he here? Shouldn't players be in the beginner's village as soon as they enter? This is the ghost ship. Yu Yao heard this sentence and was eager to know more. She moved towards the person and told herself that she must protect the player. Who do you say he is? Yu Yao deliberately induced the other person to say more to confirm what he had said. The person was in a state of shock at the moment, eager to say more to prove how outrageous this matter was. This is the ultimate boss in the ghost ship dungeon, as he will transform into an assassin to kill all players for revenge. What kind of revenge? Yu Yao glanced at Yuan Chang, feeling that this guy was playing some interesting game and didn't have a deep grudge. You don't even bother to watch, do you? The player said angrily. The ghost ship swims freely in the ghost river, boards the ghost ship, kills the ghost shark, destroys the vampire castles along the way, and leads to the vampire knight. The vampire knight is not a vampire, he is the protector of the vampires. Legend has it that they are bat spirits, and some say they are people who can become bats. In short, when you destroy the vampire castle, he will appear to avenge the vampires. Players can only conquer the vampire knight and obtain his help to board. The player's words came to a sudden halt because Yuan Chang had already started killing. Zhaozhuyuan.com. It's all because I listened too attentively and couldn't resist this guy's sudden attack. Yu Yao shot an arrow and pushed back Yuan Chang, who was close at hand. Yuan Chang seemed to be very afraid of the fish gun in Yu Yao's hand. He only killed the storyteller closely and didn't move anything else. It could also be that before they could move, they turned around and transformed into bats, quickly flying away a few meters. Players who are temporarily safe can breathe a sigh of relief. Yuan Chang's speed was too fast, and before they could react, a companion beside him collapsed to the ground. Yu Yao didn't give them any time to relax and quickly asked, "Who can finish his unfinished words? I can give him all the treasures under the big ship." "Who looks so carefully like him?" A player said, "We are responsible for testing the tasks in the beginner's village." "Who knew they would be teleported here?" "Before I came, I only read the instructions for introducing the beginner's village." "Who of you saw the ghost ship dungeon?" "Who would read it? With so much text and not as captivating as novels, I just read the beginner's village mission instructions." 5 people, the only one who knows the details was killed, and Yu Yao couldn't help but regret it. "I only blame myself for being too slow. If I can keep him, I will definitely find a way to leave this big ship. Next time, she will definitely not make such a mistake again." Yu Yao gritted his teeth and lifted his fishing spear to shoot at Yuan Chang. This person was flying and rolling to avoid, although it was always very dangerous, he still let him take the 2 of them away. The remaining 2 people, together with Yu Yao, watched as this guy transformed into a bat and left. There were only 3 people left on the deck, and the other 2 didn't know what to do. They saw the sun setting, black clouds pressing on top, lightning and thunder roaring. Yu Yao rolled and crawled, leaving behind the 2 people and heading straight for the trapdoor. To her surprise, the door was closed. Get it? Wait for the 10th reboot. Upside down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A intact ship was sailing on the sea, with seagulls sailing alongside the ship. Groups of players on the deck were exploring everything on the ship in a strange way. Yu Yao leaned against the mast and sighed. How many times did he have to go back and forth to leave this big ship? "I'm almost driven crazy." She looked at the unfamiliar players who could choose to come or go, only she was trapped in place. Suddenly, an impulse surged in his heart, and Yu Yao quickly got up and came to the side of the ship. The waves are green and jade-like, and even if a big ship cracks open, it will fall into the sea. Since the ending is the same, why can't you choose when to fall into the sea? Driven by this impulse, Yu Yao climbed up the railing. Just as he was about to jump off, his feet were hugged by someone, and the person was very panicked. "What are you doing, player? Don't worry about me. I want to be reborn." Yu Yao struggled. This person not only hugged her feet, but also freed one hand to pull at her tattered skirt. "Hey, you're taking advantage of someone's situation." Yu Yao grabbed his skirt with both hands and desperately lifted it up. People can be reborn repeatedly. Shame must be engraved in the bones, and one must never let this person tear their skirt. "Hurry up, someone wants to jump into the sea." This person not only grabbed Yu Yao's skirt but also shouted loudly at the top of his voice. "Are you too crazy? This is a game, not reality. If she likes to dance, just let her dance. It's a good time to test the authenticity of this ocean. I'm quite curious." The player who was originally holding Yu Yao suddenly released his hand, and he smiled and said, "Yes, this is a game. Then you jump." The person let go without warning, and Yu Yao suddenly leaned forward. She had already pulled hard on her skirt, but now it was snatched back, and the person plunged into the sea upside down. The bottom of the big ship brushed against Yu Yao's face, causing her to roll back and forth in the sea, making it impossible for her to control her body. Finally emerging from the water, a wave came over and sank another 30 centimeters. Finally floating up again, Yu Yao was soaked all over and looked around for the traces of the big ship. Unexpectedly, the ship came from behind him. Yu Yao quickly sank into the water and swam down several meters before avoiding the damage of the ship. For a moment in the sea, Yu Yao was very puzzled. Normally, the big ship should have kept away from herself, why did she row over again? Didn't the big ship keep moving forward as she thought? When she wanted to confirm the direction of the ship's movement again, she suddenly felt her feet being touched by something. The feeling was both cold and cold, which surprised her. Subconsciously looking towards the seabed, she was shocked to see the scene before her eyes. At a distance of 4 to 5 meters from sea level, there are floating seaweed. These seaweed are densely packed, both thin and long, forming a turbid and semi-transparent world. In this sea grass, there are half-figures standing tall. They have different forms, some holding their hands on their chests, some extending one or both hands to grab something, and some holding their heads, with an expression of confusion or pain. Yu Yao just felt something caressing her. It was the portrait of the person reaching out. These figures are either carved from stone or made of some material. Apart from the algae scattered all over them, everything else seems to be real people. Anyone who sees such a scene's first reaction will not be to explore, but to want to escape. Yu Yao was the same. She tried her best to swim upstream and finally emerged from the water, only to see the big boat brushing against her nose as it sailed past. She also had no heart to marvel at what was going on with the big ship coming and going, only wanting the players on the deck to find a way to rescue her. At this moment, a huge bat flew out of the sea, and Yu Yao knew it was Yuan Chang. He came again to assassinate the player on the big ship. And if she wanted to return to the big ship, she had to first protect the players on the deck, but unfortunately she searched her whole body but couldn't find the fish gun. Yes, I was reborn again, and the fishing spear must have been refreshed and returned to the underground cabin. Helpless, I could only watch Yuan Chang fly onto the deck, stay on the deck for a few seconds, and then fly away. Watching him skim over the sea at a low altitude, Yu Yao didn't know what came to his mind. He even jumped into the sea at the moment he entered. She not only crawled in, but also swam towards the direction where Yuan Chang had fallen. The seawater is semi-transparent, and Yu Yao saw Yuan Chang transform into a human after entering the water. He is not swimming well, and Yu Yao is confident that he can catch up with him. She tracked so deeply that she didn't notice that she was far away from the sea grass portrait. Yu Yao swam deeper and deeper into the sea, and Yuan Chang took her to an upside-down world. That world was 8 or 9 meters away from the sea, and it was a large ship hanging upside down. The ship was in a state of disrepair, with a broken mast and decaying wooden planks on the hull, with not only holes but also traces of breakage. Yu Yuan swam closer and carefully examined the large ship, only to find that it was not hanging upside down, but floating on the upside-down sea surface. This ship is the ghost ship in the mouths of gamers. Yu Yao felt that the oxygen in his lungs was running low, so he quickly swam towards the direction he had come from. She dare not go to the world where the ghost ship is located, because she has not forgotten what the players said about the ghost shark and vampire. She was unprepared for nothing and couldn't even think about the outcome of encountering them. In the game setting, it is necessary for players to subdue Yuan Chang instead of killing him because only he knows where the players leaving the novice village will go. Zhaoshuyuan.com. No, this analysis is incorrect. Yu Yao, who didn't know where his confidence came from, actually began to analyze the setting of this game. Based on the various information she collected from players, it is known that all the players appearing on the deck of the ship are internal testers in the game. They were originally supposed to test the tasks of the novice village, but for some reason, they were all transmitted to the ship. Players who appear on the big ship may recognize at first glance that the ship may be related to the ghost ship dungeon, but some players do not know that this is a level of the ghost ship dungeon, which is related to their attitude towards work. Serious people naturally know more. Undoubtedly, these careless workers have caused a lot of trouble for herself, making her wonder how many times she has restarted, and each time she knows very little information. It was only after rebirth that she finally understood the general situation. According to Yu Yao's analysis, there is a dungeon entrance called Ghost Ship in the beginner's village level of the game. There are 3 levels to pass. First, defeating the ghost shark, second, destroying the vampire castle, and third, subduing the vampire knight, Yuan Chang, who can turn into a bat. As for the directionless ship, Yu Yao speculates that this may be the nightmare of game planner Yuan Chang. It's Yuan Chang from the real world, not the assassin who turns into a bat. In the real nightmare of Yuan Chang, he appeared on a large ship with no direction, and everyone on board would be killed. Not only that, the ship also encountered a terrible thunderstorm, and in the end, the ship was destroyed. Yu Yao analyzed this and then returned to the sea where the big ship was located. At this time, black clouds filled the sky, and the clouds were brewing the thunderstorm. What if she analyzed the truth? There is still no answer to how she wants to change her ending.